Marvel vs. Capcom is one of my favorite fighting games of all time, much less the entirety of the Marvel vs. Capcom series. I would consider to be perhaps my favorite fighting game series of any of them, over the Killer Instincts, over like the Third Strikes. The entirety of the Versus series, especially when Marvel was involved, and the legacy of those games is still amazing to this day, even all the way up until Ultimate Marvel 3. But Marvel Infinite definitely cannot be said the same about. I wanted to make this video today because Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite has gone suspiciously silent for like the past 3 months or so, and we haven't heard anything in regards to the game. Now, I actually have a personal feeling that the game is indeed done, and I kind of wanted to do a little bit of an investigation back to how we got to this point, and hopefully what it can mean going forward where Capcom can maybe fix some of this stuff. But with so many issues that resided with Street Fighter Cross Tekken, with the launch of Street Fighter V, and then the eventual launch of Marvel Infinite being the way it was, I've lost a lot of faith in the fighting game division of Capcom, and it's going to be kind of hard to impress me at this point. Let's start back at the start. Marvel Infinite was first shown at the PlayStation Experience back in 2016, and at this point, a lot of us were really excited because they were bringing back Marvel 3. Marvel 3 got a re-release. Ultimate Marvel 3 came out on modern platforms with better graphics and a lot of the same features that it had before. But it was just nice to see this game getting a mini resurrection in some way because, well, it had been around for like 5 years, and all of a sudden it was completely relevant all over again. And that was kind of fun. There was also the looming horizon that there was a new Marvel vs. Capcom game, and while the initial trailer wasn't bad, the CG trailer I think is actually one of the better things that they released for this game. The gameplay trailer was concerning. I think a lot of us, when we saw that video of like Morrigan and Captain Marvel and Ryu and Mega Man and Captain America, a lot of us were saying, well, they're going to fix it later. It doesn't look great. A lot of the animations and things are being taken directly over from Marvel 3, which I made video comparisons about. Most of us were giving it a pass because it's early, it'll be fixed. Let's just not worry about it right now. Flash forward a few more months, back in April or so of 2017, we got a really good look at what the gameplay was going to be like, actually seeing what was apparently like final in-game. Like that's what the game was going to look like. And we got a trailer, we got some more characters, and I was really happy because Strider was going to be a character in the main roster. I thought that was amazing. But once again, the gameplay visuals never looked great. Some story trailers came out later on, and these story trailers, while they were cute and exciting because there was another Marvel vs. Capcom game on the horizon, I think we all can admit, even back in the day, they were only okay. Where everything started to go south with this game was E3. The number one thing that I think hurt Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite almost more than anything was the demo. And it was obvious that between all the trailers that they were dropping for Marvel Infinite, the story mode was going to be really important, if not the main focus, this big story that they had built up between the Marvel and the Capcom universes colliding, and then they tell that tale.
Take him dancing.
I'll take that as a yes.
Dude, Cap, you look weird as fuck!
But as all of us could really quickly tell, that demo was just frustrating. All you wanted to do was play it, and it kept sticking all these cutscenes in between. And I found myself really excited on my first impression, but having to wait through these story cutscenes, which were not good, and these really awkward dialogue moments just did not help. And by the end of that night, I was worried. I was legit, I don't know about this game. We couldn't play our friends. We could only play against the AI, and the little bit that we could practice or try to do stuff was so limited that it just, I went to E3 the next day very worried, and I was not too excited about Marvel Infinite. I was kind of under the impression, oh my god, they did it again, they screwed up again. But luckily, when I got to E3 and actually got my hands on the game with the roster that was available, it was super fun. Like, the game held up so much better when you were actually playing against people, and it made me forget the bad story mode. At that time, I took opportunities to mention specifically that the demo is not doing this game any favors. The story mode is not doing this game any favors to the people that were directly working on it, and I was kind of giving them my 2 cents, and a lot of people weren't super happy that I was saying stuff like that, albeit I felt it needed to be said. I had a funny feeling that a lot of the issues with Marvel Infinite were going to get fixed by the time the launch was going to happen, even though the launch at this point was like 3-4 months away. So I was excited that things are going to change. Like, they're going to add way more characters to this roster. They're going to hopefully polish up the graphics and make it not have this weird gray filter over everything. It just never took place. And by the time the game launched and the more we saw and the way the character reveals were at EVO, everything was just so awkward. The marketing for the game was so awkward. It never ever had a chance to look cool outside of one story trailer, which was like the second to final story trailer. That was like it, dude. Like, every time you saw this game in like a trailer form or in media, it never really looked good because it always focused on the story mode, which looked kind of bad. That also carried over to so much other stuff. The character models you see on the character poses and the final poses and the character artwork just reflected a lot of the story mode stuff, and it just looked ugly. Characters looked worse than they did from the previous game. Not to mention, the game launched with less characters than the previous game, so a lot of people didn't have a lot of incentive to buy in when the game first launched. And I was under the impression this stuff was going to change. I was actually hearing from the people that were going to make it that this is a platform to build upon, that there is going to be updates and characters and things like that. But largely, the thing that held up was the gameplay. And the toughest part around this point was that I was really enamored with the gameplay. There was problems like, Reality Stone and several other issues and crazy-ass Dante, but many of the gameplay things did get addressed over a very short period of time. They actually tackled these things really quick, and gameplay-wise, I think Marvel Infinite's in a great state, and I loved it. It was just to the point of which there was so many people were so upset about this game. So many people had such a negative connotation about anything for Marvel vs. Capcom. It made it hard for me to personally say anything good about it. And I just wanted to show off the game for what it is. But at the same time, I didn't want to hide the fact that I wasn't, completely pleased with everything. Like, visually and roster-wise, the game was super lacking. And I called them out several times on that in video, and even to them as much as an opportunity to the guys at Capcom and Marvel in person. I mean, to the point of which I think I did an interview for something for the game at some point at E3, and they asked me what characters on the Marvel side are my favorite. I said X-Men. I can't wait to see X-Men show up in this game. It's going to be so sick. And yeah, that never happened. But any point of which I was kind of happy with Marvel Infinite, or showing the fact that there's this really sick thing you can do in the game, at least giving it its fair chance, because it is my favorite fighting game series, I really started to enjoy the gameplay. And with that, people started to hate the shit out of my opinion because I was enjoying something of it. Even to the point where there was another side that was like hopelessly defending Marvel Infinite and everything about it. And I was saying several critical aspects that I think are totally whack in this game in terms of like its story mode and, like I said, presentation and roster. And those people were super pissed off at me too. So it's like Marvel vs. Capcom fans are angry at me for being critical about the game. And then casual fans are blaming everyone that says anything good about it. Being a shill left me in a huge funk. Like, it left me in this point where, man, me enjoying this is like, it's kind of like a bad thing for my channel and my audience, and people are like leaving and they're not happy, and I can understand why a lot of people weren't happy, but to each their own. I loved playing it. I still love playing this game to this day, and I think it's probably the best playing Capcom fighting game since Capcom vs. SNK 2. I still stand by that. I think that's absolutely true. The stuff that they crafted in this game is really, really damn awesome. For a vanilla version, that's the thing you got to consider. This is a vanilla version of a game. And they could have expanded on it. They could have polished up the fact that maybe push blocking needs to go a little bit harder and longer. Things of that nature would have been fixed without, the vanilla version of the game, eventually into an ultimate version or whatnot. I don't think that's happening. Like, my plans for an Assist Me, so many things I was like really gearing up to do because I was a huge fan of Marvel vs. Capcom and excited. And by the time the game came out, I felt like I had to defend the things that I liked about it and also compare them to the things that I hate all the time. And it was just tough, man. Like, so many angry people were surrounding MVCI at all times. And it wasn't easy to be creative at that point, much less want to make movies and everything. So a lot of my ideas and things just didn't pan out, and I just lost interest. I wanted to do more, and I wanted to make big movies like before, but there was so much more excitement around Ultimate Marvel 3. People were so much happier about games like MVC 3 and Ultimate Marvel 3. And that was really difficult for me. It just made it tough in general, because it was Once again, one of my favorite things is like Capcom fighting games, and Street Fighter V, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, and now another Marvel vs. Capcom game have all fallen to really, really, really jacked up things. Like, at this point, I just want a Capcom fighting game to show up that doesn't have something completely whacked out about it. But albeit Street Fighter V has had a ton of effort put into it to make it something better. And I was hoping that was going to be the same thing for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, that Marvel and Capcom were going to stick to their guns and add all these characters that we were missing, and eventually it was going to be the game we were looking for. But based on the things we've seen, and from what I've heard of people to people to people, and so many aspects, I think it's done. I think Marvel vs. Capcom is not going to be getting any more future updates. We saw a balance patch that happened around the early portion of this year that was fixing a backturn infinite, or a backturn supposed infinite, that many characters could do, and that was a big problem. It was going to mess up the game, but they fixed it really quick. Like many of the other things, they fixed it really fast, so there was hope. Is it competitively done? No, it's still absolutely going to have a hardcore fan base that's going to stick with it and keep playing the game, and that should absolutely be supported. And it's still supported. It's still doing better than several games at many tournaments, that even ones that are in EVO right now. Do I think it deserved a spot at EVO? I would have loved to have seen it, at least get one. But at the same time, it's hard to disagree with people that are setting up events and things where I was going to make this big event for Assist Me in a giant movie, and I had plans to do so, but my motivations were dashed by the developers of the game not really seeming to care, like not caring about what people had to say about so many issues. But they did fix other issues like gameplay stuff, and that's where this game is always going to bring me back. It's got my favorite version of Strider. It's got so many characters that are ridiculously fun to play. Monster Hunter and Sigma and Venom are just fucking amazing. It's just the visuals, man. It could have been fixed, and that's the most painful part. If that stuff was bad, if the gameplay of MVCI was bad, it wouldn't hurt so much, you know? It wouldn't hurt so much to think that the game is done and they're just not going to be updating it anymore, and they've gone completely pitch black silent. If the gameplay was bad, yeah, I wouldn't nearly have an issue. But MVCI, I think, is actually something special because gameplay-wise, it's ridiculously fun. For being a vanilla version of a game, and I think that's the one thing to highlight. It's ridiculously fun, and they tackled some of the glaring issues really fast that were not really needing direct nerfing, but were just plaguing the game. They created a game with an open-ended system, and you have to start tweaking things very fast, and they actually did. All the game really needed was an adjustment to how it looked, an adjustment to the overall art style / UI, and an adjustment to its roster. The eventuality of characters would have helped out Marvel Infinite a lot. But I think it's done. I think MVCI is concluded development, and for whatever the game's life is going to be in the hands of players. This might sound very familiar because this is largely what happened to Marvel vs. Capcom, or Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And that's the part that stings a bit, man. Like, once again, this partnership with Marvel probably has caused a bunch of toxicity between the people developing it and the release dates between this game and even Ultimate showing up within a really close time frame of the vanilla version. It just seems like this relationship between Marvel and Capcom, as much as I love these characters and these games, is just not working out. Like, it just doesn't work out. And this could quite possibly be the end of the Marvel vs. Capcom franchise. It probably is sunk because of the sales of this game. I almost think it's a good thing. I want there to be more. I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong about all of this. I want them to hopefully be working on a version of the game, if not something that will satiate fans in the background, but I don't think so. Anytime I've asked anyone that's in a situation of knowing potentially what's happening in this game, like any information or just hopes of something in the future, my concerns are always dashed. Like, I don't think there's anything happening for the future of MVCI. And that sucks. It really does. Is it going to stop me from playing more of the game? Absolutely not, dude. This game has my favorite version of Strider Hiryu of any fighting game ever. Like I said, Venom, Sigma, Monster Hunter, like, so many characters in this game are sick as hell, and I love them. Like, I like more characters in the initial roster right now of Marvel Infinite than I liked for Marvel 3, like vanilla Marvel 3. Like, Ultimate's got a great roster. It's not going to stop me. There's going to be more Marvel vs. Capcom videos. Those are going to include Infinite. I'll jump back to Ultimate Marvel 3 every once in a while. But it really helps that Infinite does have a damn good netcode and really good online that finds matches fast. So many things were done right on the end of MVCI. It was just the things on the surface level that people would see, people would purchase, people would hopefully eventually become interested. Just didn't work out. Visuals and presentation are important for fighting games. And I think Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite is going to be an interesting case study moving forward for the future of Capcom fighting games. What I really hope is that this doesn't like sink Capcom fighting games for the next several years. It hurts to admit it. It hurts for me to feel this way, but like I said, I hope I'm wrong. I really hope that they're working on something in the background that will make everybody happy. I hope they're trying to make people happy because it really feels like leaving the game in the state that it is, like presentation-wise and roster-wise, that sucks. Dude, there's an extra Marvel character than a Capcom character. There's 4 Marvel characters on the DLC and 2 Capcom characters. It was obvious there was going to be more, and then a sudden stop. So that just isn't cool. Like even supported Street Fighter Cross Tekken for like a year after and gave that game a bunch more stuff. Like, I don't know, man. It's the point where the Capcom fighting game division and whatever Capcom fighting games are going to come out in the future, I'm a little bit weary, like in terms of what's happening, and they're going to have to try hard to convince me going forward that this is going to be really awesome, because the last few Capcom fighting games have not been really awesome, especially the big AAA ones when they come out, and I really hope that changes in the future. Either way, that's all I got right now, guys. That's my personal take on Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. It's been a rough road, and it's been tough to be a fan of this game. It's been tough to be a fan of Marvel vs. Capcom, and I feel Marvel vs. Capcom fans have kind of gotten the shaft for the past 2 games, even from Ultimate Marvel 3, ceasing development and not getting anything else or many balance changes, and this game ultimately suffering the fate it did. So it's a sad end to the Marvel vs. Capcom series, if it is the end. I just hope that it paves the way for something even cooler. It paves the way for, hopefully, a Capcom fighting game that focuses on just Capcom characters and an All-Stars type of situation. Capcom, you just need to make a Capcom All-Stars game. Don't try to go between all these other different companies. Just use all your characters, because you have so many characters that are amazing, and you obviously have the art and talent. We see it in Street Fighter V. We see it in the gameplay of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. It's all there. The building blocks are there to make a badass-looking, awesome-based, like, team-based Capcom character fighting game. Like, I just hope that happens eventually, and I hope we don't have to wait 5 to 6 years for it. As always, dudes, thank you a ton for hanging out with me. I'll be back with more videos of MVCI and other Marvel vs. Capcoms as soon as possible, because regardless of what happened, it's still my favorite fighting game series of all time. Thank you dudes a ton for watching, and I'll see you next time.